Hey, how's it going? What's going on, Cinephiles? How's everybody doing? Guess what? Guess where we're going? We're headed back to the Television Academy for another FYC event. And this one is for one of the greatest television shows on TV. Well, it's not on TV anymore, because it's all over. That's right, this is the FYC event for Better Call Saul. Are you ready? Let's go! Oh, hello, hi there. It's me, Todd. I'm in the studio, and today's sponsor is myself. The best way to support the channel is to subscribe to my Patreon, where not only do you become a member of the community, you get early access to the B-side videos as well as watch-throughs of movies or TV shows we are covering, and other movie reactions and commentaries from a filmmaker's perspective. And if that's out of your budget, no worries, just hit that like button. It really does help out the channel with the algorithm. And of course, subscribe to get the latest videos delivered directly to you. Hit that notification bell to be alerted of the newest uploads, and please share these videos with your friends and family. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program. That's right, we are headed back to the Television Academy for the final season and the final Emmy event for Better Call Saul. So, I'm sure you all love Better Call Saul just as much as I do. Let me know what you think about Better Call Saul down in the comments. Here we are.
Right now they got it.
Some of the statues that I always point out. Everyone's lining up in the middle of them all.
Gotcha. You're all set?
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Everyone arriving on the carpet here. And then everyone's setting up for the after party.
And thank you so much all for coming out. I don't want this show to end, and so that's why whenever they ask me to moderate these panels, I say yes immediately, because then it means that it hasn't ended yet. And you're in for a treat tonight, because we have a number of the stars, of course, of the show, and also the co-creator, Peter Gould, who's here. And we're gonna have a great conversation after this episode, but we're gonna show episode 609, Fun and Games. This, from early in the 6B, season 6B, this is a pivotal episode where you really do find out, what happens to Jimmy and Kim and where that relationship goes after years of wondering, does Kim live? Does she die? Well, you kind of see where things go from here. You also sort of see where we leave Gus before the events of Breaking Bad, and ended in a very interesting, introspective place. We learned a lot more about Gus in this episode, and there's a lot, of course, that we see here. And of course, the evolution of Jimmy McGill into Saul Goodman. It all happens in this episode. So there's a lot to talk about and unpack after as well. So stick around. After this, we have our conversation and more to come. But for now, why don't we kick it off with episode 609, Fun and Games of Better Call Saul. All right. So, didn't lie, right? That was a pivotal episode of Better Call Saul. And thank you so much for sticking around now. We're going to have a conversation about the show, about the ending. Some spoilers, by the way. You've had months to watch that finale. So, FYI, plug your ears if you haven't watched yet. But if you haven't, then what's wrong with you? So I'm going to bring out the stars, of course, and also one of the creators of the show. Why don't we kick it off with the one and only Gustavo Gus Fring. Ladies and gentlemen, Giancarlo Esposito. By the way, this is a double treat because Giancarlo is on 17 television shows. So the fact that we got him tonight is a miracle. Next up, of course, Kim Wexler herself, Ray Seahorn. It is so great to see Kim alive. She lived. So excited at the end. in color, exactly. Next up, of course, maybe you know him as Jimmy McGill, maybe you know him as Saul Goodman, maybe you know him as Gene Takovic, but he is the one and only Bob Odenkirk. And finally, the co-creator, executive producer, and showrunner of Better Call Saul, Peter Gould. So when was the last time you all saw each other? Was it at the finale? Before today. When was the last time you all managed to kind of get together in the same room?
I think it probably was the SAG Awards, wasn't it? There you go. Yeah, SAG Awards.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so through these awards, these events, you were able to kind of keep this going.
Please nominate us so we can hang out.
That's
That's the main reason we want to be nominated for Emmy. So we have an excuse to hang out.
I know, is there a way to keep this going through 2024, Peter? Maybe like quickly write up a couple of shorts or something?
A bunch of stuff off the cutting room floor, make an episode, a special episode.
Yeah, we could probably make another season out of just stuff on the cutting room floor.
Or just like the Christmas episode of The Office. Just do like one reunion thing.
I know that you could make another episode out of me and Banks in the desert. I know you could do that.
Picnic in the desert.
Yeah.
Yes.
But make it like a Christmas episode, like Ray was mentioning. Somehow make it the occasion, because we never really saw them celebrate many holidays, but I'm sure they did, right? So, Peter, maybe like a little flashback?
Mike, he must be so jolly.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So, you guys ready for that?
Yes.
Mike has, I always wanted to do the Breaking Bad Star Wars Christmas.
Yes.
Mike has to get the blue meth to Jesse's cousin on the planet Katonkus.
As long as they're songs.
Yes, and there'll be songs.
Some songs.
Yes.
I thought you wanted to get Baby Mike made. I thought that
Oh, Baby Mike. Animators. We got Baby Gus, of course.
Go. Breaking Bad, Little Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad Babies. I mean, there's a lot of things you could still do with this.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
And by the way, now that we know that some characters do live, the Kim spinoff that we're still waiting to hear about, come on, right? We want to see that. Well, it's been several months now since the finale, and like I mentioned, we'll probably talk a little bit of spoilers here, but I think everyone's seen it and probably seen it several times by now. So you've had months now to kind of really sit with it, sit with sort of how it all ended, sit with the reaction. I think the general consensus was, you guys stuck the landing.
Wow.
Yeah, all the
That guy
credit,
did.
all the credit
That guy
to
did.
Peter and the writers.
Yeah. Well, and this amazing cast.
Well, we acted in it, but we would have acted in any shit you sent our It's not like we would have rewritten it. So, you guys nailed it.
Well,
Talk about the hell that must have been to try
to stick that
get
landing.
it.
Well, it was very unnerving and worrying because people are really tough on final seasons for good reason. Audiences invested many hours with these characters, and how do you end it? How do you end? And there's, in my mind, we're still figuring out serialized television. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but a show that goes 63 episodes after another show that went 62 episodes. How do you bring that to a satisfying conclusion? And it kind of psyched me out. I'll be honest, it psyched me out also because I'd been part of Breaking Bad, and I thought that ended really well. And so how are we going to do this? And we ended up going with I went with my gut all the way, and I didn't know if it was going to work for anybody else, but apparently it worked for you, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think the reaction is, these shows are tough to land, and we've seen many times where it is a struggle, and it's sort of in some ways people psych themselves out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you start psyching yourself out, especially if you start thinking, well, what would the audience like? Because as soon as you start picturing this mythical hydra-headed creature of the audience that thinks you just throw yourself up. You have to think, what do I like? What's satisfying to me? What's satisfying to the group? What works for us? And then if it works for us, and we care about the show a lot, then hopefully, you know, everybody else will like it too.
Yeah, but at the same time, I love that Peter told me one day, like, there's all these clues that we have, these people doing extensive work, the dramaturgy of keeping track of, like, who met whom first in Breaking Bad, and when did this person take on that job and all that. And you told me one time, while going for what your gut said the story was and the things that you wanted to say, you said, you know, there's a world in which you could just say, well, Saul was a liar. He was a con man. So I don't have to do everything that he said was true. And you said, I won't be cheap, though, not to our fans. They're too smart. And you crossed all those T's and dotted all those I's. I was fascinated by it.
Well, it's because the audience is so smart. That's what makes it so difficult.
Well, especially, I mean, we have some idea, obviously, what happens to Gus. We see exactly what happened to Gus at the end of Breaking Bad. In comparison,
So unfair.
Yeah, but this episode had the greatest, well, I kind of think the greatest Gus scene.
the moment in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's done so
Thank you.
so subtly, and it's any other writers and show would have taken out a little hammer and hit their points harder and made it louder, and it was all done with feeling and with this guy's acting and patience on the part of the filmmakers and on the part of the audience, which gave us that ability to sit with the character and sort of feel what they're feeling. That scene is unbelievable, and it tells you so much about what's great about the Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul universes.
And you know, the wonderful thing about in watching tonight too about each episode of this sixth season is that and hearing, you know, it talked about in terms of what's a satisfying ending. I keep coming back to the organic truth of what morally is right for people to do, and that compass. When you said I just listened to my gut, is so evident watching this. You know, there is you play the game as long as you can until you just can't play that game anymore, and the truth comes up for you, and it gets so exemplified by that kiss. You know, that's a serious goodbye. This is it, and it's a very interesting thing when you're guided by that. I give such deep credit to not only you, Peter, but to Anne and to Michael.
Michael Morris.
Michael
He's
Morris,
here.
director.
He's here tonight.
Where are you,
Oh,
Michael?
wow.
Also director of Toulouse.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Not up here.
When you run out of chairs, he's too handsome.
There's no more chairs
We
here.
won't
We
let
asked for
anybody
chairs.
I won't let anybody that handsome sit next to me.
I mean, to people to trust the material and trust, you know, your director in a way that he's going to capture and guide you to a place where you know, for me, it's sort of the revelation of this is that you see a Gus you've never seen before, in that yearning, in that longing. And for the majority of the scene, I'm not saying anything, and it's a tribute to Reed Diamond's performance that is just so absolutely real. And you could imagine all that. And I'm sitting there going, God, if I'm not gay, I certainly want to be. I mean, really, it's such a romantic, beautiful, lovely scene, filmically and also with the music and with desire and yearning and longing. And then, boom. It all goes away. So,
Plus, it just raises that question that gets asked of the other characters, but instead you guys asked it of the, let's say, quote unquote, the villains or whatever, the cartel side or whatever, of what did it cost you to be this person? And they don't ask those questions of characters like that often in shows. And I love just seeing whether it is a love lost or a life lost or sliding doors or any of that. I just love knowing, like, there is a cost to what
there is a cost, and the cost is that connection for Gustavo. And the cost, you know, maybe for Jimmy too. You know, Bob, I mean, I just get so moved by that desperation of, you know, I love you, and so what? I mean, it's just such a powerful thing, and the way you guys play, and the way you play that, is to how do I go on after this, but you're committed to this one thing, and that's, you know, that's Saul.
Just doing an impersonation of my dog wanting to continue the walk.
I like that. I like that sort of sliding doors thing that you mentioned, because there is that moment where, for example, you see that look on Gus's face when he realizes, like, this is what he could have in another life. This is what he could have, and instead he can't. And so
but it's
he runs.
Also, God, it's so great, isn't it? I mean, we watch shows all the time, and there's bad guys, and you're like, as a comic, I always want to do the bad guy's personal life. You know, because you're like, well, yeah, but you got to go home. There's a great Saturday Night Live sketch Jack Handy wrote called Lair Under Construction about Dr. Evil's underground lair, but James Bond came too soon and they're still building. He's like, all right, there's going to be a big tank here. It's going to have sharks in it. If you had gotten here a month from now, they've been anyway. But it's that thing of like, but he has to be alive somewhere as a person. I mean, he's holding it all in. We only ever see Gus as this, you know, incredibly controlled human, and to see him. There's two times I see it, but you, I'm sure, could shed more light on this. Sometimes when he's dealing with Mike and Mike pushes back, he's not all powerful, or at least he's got to navigate that. And then when in this scene where we see him, just, can I break from the character?
Can I do it? I mean, it really is reflective of, you know, what the need. And again, coming back to the writing and the vision of how it unfolds, is the need of connection. Like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And that's so yearned for. And to see that come out, and the possibility of that, of just enjoying life for a few moments, is really powerful.
And I feel like he never got to open that bottle of 1978 Cote Rôtie. It's sitting somewhere. No. So check under your chairs right now. We have vintage bottles of for everyone.
I actually want to say, everyone, that scene, Ray's bringing it up. She's talking about it. The scene where we're having the confrontation in the apartment was truly a collaborative. And
Michael asked if he could come watch us running live. He goes, you run set, right? You were like, can I come watch it? And then you said, we have to stay with you guys. So then you speak to them.
Yeah, I mean, okay, briefly, I mean, this is, hi, everyone. Hi. Yeah, so what you're referring to is the way that we chose to actually capture that scene, because it was, one thing was really obvious to me from the first time I watched you, what you call running the lines, but was really conjuring moments in that scene privately, right? And I was there to witness it. And the first thing that was obvious was that we did not want to cut the scene. Because what you would normally do, as I'm sure everybody in this room knows, is that you would break up the scene into these bite-sized sections, depending on where geographically they are in the set. So the moment you cross into the bedroom, boom, that's a different setup. The moment you oftentimes, even when you're going to come tight, it's a different setup. Certainly when you come back and you do another shot. So watching you work, watching the flow, because this is what acting is, and this is what writing is to me, is that the moments are dependent upon one another. You can't just go, okay, stop, all right, we'll pick it up from there again. You could, but you wouldn't get that. Every moment is weighed against the moment before it and the moment after it. So in brief, what we did was invent a plot with the blocking that you guys had naturally fallen into, to use the camera to actually go with, and it's easier to do it. You just carry the camera, right, and just follow. We do it all the time, but not really on this show, and not really in this moment. So we...
Not through that skinny doorway.
Not through that...
Well, shout out to Eli, the dolly grip.
And shout out to giant-bodied cameraman, Matt.
Matt Cradle.
Cradle.
Matt Cradle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fucking serious.
Oh, Matt's here?
Yeah, he's here.
Give it up for Matt Cradle.
Yeah.
Amazing cameraman.
Survived shooting Better Call Saul.
Jesus, a genius cameraman. And so what we did was we formulated a way to stay with the actors, even as they went through tiny doorways, into tiny rooms, even as they came back and fell into positions. And so it allowed every take to feel connected. And it's a very small, hopefully relatively invisible decision, but one that helped us get to where we were.
It was awesome. It was an amazing thing. And you know, can I just say, whenever people do win awards, they always thank like Sony, AMC, and you kind of, I know people at home are like, really? Come on, kissing ass. But I mean, the power, the support that we got that allowed us to have the time to rehearse, change the shooting schedule, the shooting plan. This is one of the things that made this show so great. And I say this both to celebrate Sony and AMC and to scold all the other producers who don't give you that time and then wonder, why can't we make something great? Well, because we needed time.
We also had a cast. You guys would always come to set, without question, without a single exception, come to set really knowing the scene and having thought about it and knowing every word of every scene. There was never kind of this feeling that, oh, wait, this is what we're shooting today? A lot of that, I think, comes from, from the fact that we have the best cast in television, and also that, some of you guys were roommates.
Right. Well, I don't want to turn this into the Sammy Maudlin show, but it always does.
Yes, it does. Well, that's what it is.
Well, also, and then I'm going to shut up and probably get out and give you your seat back. But just to point out that there is an extremely active and educated about the show executive producer sitting over there, and there are 4 directors sitting on this side of the show. And I think that's a huge part of how this community of actors is knitted together, because everybody's thinking about all aspects of the show at all times, and then still has the ability to filter it through themselves and their characters. And it's very rare.
Well, but before you go, though, speaking of the fact that both Ray and Giancarlo had a chance to direct this season, which was, I'm sure, just a treat.
Truly a treat. Truly a wonderful experience.
And also to be allowed the privilege of doing that on a show like this that looks like this too. That must have been such an interesting exercise.
I gotta say something. Many times in television it moves so quickly on most network and other streaming shows as well. And when you come in as a director, there are people that are sort of, you feel like, are standing over your shoulder, wanting to see if you're able and can. On this show, because we're such a family, there are folks who are there to help you, aid and abet, and bring you to your best self. And I have to say, the experience of directing on this particular show was really wonderful, because things get shared and talked about. And one of the things I loved was that Peter would come and check in. First couple of days, people are there to just check it out, see what the vibe is, how you're going to do, and you figure. And then when the chairs are all empty, I'm going, oh wow, that's pretty cool. But then when Michael would show up and go, how's it going, and look and bring a thought to me, or share a thought, or talk about a moment, it was really wonderful. It felt, you feel supported. And that's the kind of television that it's great to be a part of, because then you have ideas and you go, is that just living in my own head? Hey, Michael, what do you think of this? Or when Matt Cradle told me, we're never gonna, coming out of that, out of the department store, I wanted to go up into the air and come back down. Matt said, that's all well and good, but we don't really do that here. You can do it. Peter will give it to you, but they're going to cut it. And to understand, and I love Matt for that. Think of a different way to create that rhythm. And the shots of this tonight, I just got to say, it's just to get the sense and push the story forward with that overhead of everyone just hugging and I mean, you just get it. And those are the kind of things that I learned from and were so inspiring to me. Like, don't be complicated when you don't need to be. Be simple, tell the story. And that's a beautiful thing about how this show operates. And I think we all bring that as directors, but also as actors. Because I don't feel like I ever, as an actor, think like a director. I'm here to do this. Let's discuss this. And then when I'm directing, it's just a different motion and a different movement and a different thought form that I can then bring my best part of myself there to it. But I feel like it's easier as an actor on this show to feel completely held up and supported as an actor by great directors. You don't go, wait, I don't agree with you. I mean, you can go, I'm having a sense that maybe I don't feel like that's organic. but when it's talked through in such a beautiful way, you feel supported and you feel like no one's trying to convince you to do something you don't want to do. And that's a beautiful thing about
the trust, because you're such a gifted, brilliant actor with a resume that you could say, like, forget it, my idea is the best idea, but you're open and we're surrounded by people that, like, you get the respect you give. So if somebody has an idea that you did not think was a great idea, most of us will try it.
On the set, Michael said, I'm gonna go over here now. And he's literally behind me. And I'm like thinking, well, how is he gonna get me, like how I feel? And that shot is brilliant, a part of, and you came to me. I didn't say anything, he said, I'm getting a part of your eye. Well.
Wait, is that your Michael?
Part of your eye.
It's weirdly better than the real thing.
Your British accent sucks.
That's my Michael. That was my Michael. Not so good.
You know, this is a show that has these beautiful shots like no other show, that where you can like watch it over and over again and catch something new every time you see it. There's something, you know, they look like paintings almost, some of these scenes, some of these shots. And I'm curious if you all sort of have a favorite shot from the series, or a moment where you just remember looking at it and saying, that is just beautiful. How did they pull that
There's
off?
no way I could pick one, and we've had a couple of different art directors, Denise Pizzini doing the last one, and Arthur Albert, and then Marshall Adams doing the majority of them, and then later Paul Donachie, but we also had Matt Cradle and Paul and Jordan Slovis doing, you know, camera. It's like, they're making paint. You're right, you could freeze on like a Diebenkorn composition at all times. But I do remember distinctly feeling like, oh, I need to stop thinking about the fact that I'm in the middle of a painting. One day when I was doing maybe season 2, Kim's montage with Post-its in the glass atrium, I distinctly remember thinking like, I have to stop being Ray, looking around going like, I'm in a painting. Like I was like, I gotta act, I have to play the role. But there's many scenes.
I think that one scene where Kim's in a car accident up in the hills there, and they use that special camera at night, I think, and you see the city behind you.
It pulls up.
Yeah.
Also, Mike shooting a Werner.
Oh,
Good God.
Yeah.
This is breathtaking. Just so many beautiful shots. And about the directing that you were asking, I feel the same as him. It's an acting thing as far as it's the same as an actor or a director, that collaborating with people, and it starts with who Peter and Vince and Melissa Bernstein, Mark Johnson, Tom Schnauz, all those people hire too, which is collaborative people. Most of us came from live performing, theater, just like places where you're not gonna get rich and famous. Like it's a collaborative team effort, and we all want to be better. And I care what Claudia Azarmendi brought me as a prop, and she cares what I think about my briefcase, and this constant conversation to be better. And things like when people talk about the chemistry between our characters, you know, most of my scenes were with Bob. I'm like, the tether you're saying, yes, we became real friends, and extremely close friends, but that chemistry that started from the beginning is because we respect each other's work enough that you will not do the pre-planned performance you did at home. No matter how hard you worked, my volley cannot be the same return until I see his serve. And that is actually what you're seeing on screen, and that relationship also is happening with my props master, and that relationship is happening with my director, and my cameraman is like, I trust you. Are we on the high wire together? You got me because I got you. And to me, when I watch the show, and now I'll get like goosebumpy, and even if I wasn't on it, I'd say this, that feels like theater. I remember being in theater and a set wall is falling and someone's costume is screwed up and the phone that's supposed to ring didn't ring, and you would blink to each other like, we doing it? Are we going? And everyone's like, yes. And you see like a person in the wings going like, go. And we're like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it because the audience assembled like they always have around a campfire late at night saying, tell me a story and take me anywhere you want to go, and I'll go with you. I just got a little bit goofy there, but that's what it feels like on our set. It feels like being in a play every day where everyone is like, you know what? You know who could pull this scene off? It's you. That's how they treat you.
Yeah, it's truly wonder and expectation, and it's truly being present. I mean, I've never been more present than on these sets and with more present actors who really are listening, because things change at every second, and that changes the nuance, the timbre of your voice, your reaction, the way you look at someone. All of that is alive, and that's why I do this, is to be alive. It's an amazing and fantastic element of and component of our connection together.
And Peter, to the heart of Gus Fring talking about wine, I was really hoping that was the spin-off as well. Gus on wine.
Yes, that's great. That's
Don't
a great
say that
idea.
too loud. It's going to happen.
You know how many jobs he has.
I know. Let's just add one more.
I'll take another one,
We'll add
especially
one
with
more.
this crew and family.
But yeah, someone else add to the perfect, also the cake you already have, but then put Carol Burnett on top of that as the frosting on that cake. Carol Burnett, who comes in and takes down Saul / Jimmy. That's the moment too. But
She's got to get some Emmy love. Come on.
I mean,
Come on.
she's Carol
Good in
Christine Burnett, and
so fucking good in this.
so real.
Yeah.
Real quick, Peter, how did that happen, by the way?
Well, it happened two ways. First of all, this is the most Hollywood story. It's not my story to tell, but Vince and Carol shared a limo driver for a bit, and Carol gave, Carol liked the show, and so she reached out to Vince. And then I was lucky enough to be at an award show, and I heard Carol Burnett wants to meet you, and I was like, holy shit! And I went over, and she is, I don't know, she's just the warmest, most open, but also brilliant and perceptive person you could imagine. She's very funny. She's and as soon as I met her, wow, and then we had this idea because. We don't really, I hate to say it, we didn't really plan these things that far ahead. We had this cabbie who, in an earlier season had recognized Saul. Yeah. And
like the isotope.
And now
thing
the cabbie's gonna be a problem. So what's Saul gonna do? Maybe the cabbie has a mother. Wouldn't it be great to have Carol Burnett? And the amazing thing about this particular show was you say, wouldn't it be amazing to have Carol Burnett? And we get Carol Burnett. So it was, and so that was really how it happened. And we were, I think Vince and I got on the phone with her and just told her what the part was, and she basically said, "You don't need to tell me anything. I just want to be there." And it was a really difficult season to shoot. Bob had an episode, but also, and we also had a COVID, and it was a really, really challenging season for us. I mean, in our Albuquerque world, and everyone was tired. They were really tired by the time we got, because this also was a longer season. The other seasons are all 10 episodes. This one's 13. And, we used to just barely make it over the finish line to 10. And here we are, 10 we had still had more to do. And then there was Carol Burnett. And everybody, she had this miraculous effect on everybody. She just made us happy. And that's what I saw on the set when I wasn't there as much as I wanted to be, but what I saw on the set was everybody on the crew and everybody in the cast knew how special the experience was going to be. And boy, she's just great. And I hope she gets every award there is for this show and everything else that she does.
Well, shout out to Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
Well, the thread of that, the thread of the cabbie, and sort of using that as the device that sort of kicks off this entire run of those final episodes, that leads Saul to rediscover his Saul side, and which then leads him into this trouble that then sort of brings about this about face where he suddenly, in the end, kind of breaks good to some degree in that final episode. When you guys were sort of mapping that out in the room, was it sort of serendipity when all these puzzle pieces sort of suddenly started coming into place?
if you can call sweating blood out of your forehead serendipity. Yeah. I mean, it was just fear. You know, for me. I mean, the rest. I don't know who. Actually, I don't know who's here from the show. But I love you all. If whoever's here, I'm very excited that you're here. We spent just an enormous amount of time talking about what was the right ending for this guy, what would happen. And we had things that we had set up. I mean, it was axiomatic for the show. We started off in black and white. We knew we had to end in that Omaha world, but what would that be? And it took a lot of work to figure it out. And as soon as I saw the first little bit in black and white of this season, I just knew it was going to work, at least in my mind. I really, I was so excited by, especially the initial footage when we got into the black and white this season, just because it was a different tone, a different world. And Bob created this other character of Gene, who I couldn't take my eyes off him, because Bob went from the character who talked the most of any character I've ever worked with to Gene Takovic, who actually didn't say all that much, and it was and also the mustache was great. And
then the Ray in Florida character with the wig and the whole other like sort of weird life that she's living with the most boring man in America. But I mean, it was
sad life.
By the way, when I read that script and the puzzle said no image on it, I thought it was a placeholder, because Vince and Peter are very particular in a wonderful way about the specifics of everything down to your props. And so I was like, oh, I wonder what puzzle they're deciding on. They must be having so many meetings. And then I got there. I do jigsaw puzzles a lot, and it was one of the puzzles that has no image on it, and that was real. And I was like, she's insane. She has lost her shit. I was like, oh, I get it now. But yeah, right. That was a lot of fun. And shout out to Jennifer Bryan. My costumes were the saddest things I've ever seen. And I went to see Carol on set. Carol had a fitting, and I was so upset that I didn't have scenes with her, because she's my idol, as she's, I'm sure, many of us. And so Jennifer Bryan, who does the costumes, she and I are friends, and I was like, tell me when Carol's fitting is, and I'll happen to be in the studio so I can go by. And she's texting me, she's like, she's a Kim Wexler fan, get here now. I was like, what? So I'm like running down, and I miss her, and she goes in to do the shoot with you, and I came on, but they were doing camera tests in my sad flannel nightie and like the wig and stuff. And I come on, I was like, Carol, I just want to say hi. And because she's a Kim Wexler fan, and she hadn't seen the script, she goes, what happened? I was like, what? Oh. And then in the cutest voice she could, she was like, I'm sorry, you look homeless. And I was like, yeah, I know. But it's like... Anyway, I was like, you'll read it. She was like, don't tell me. I was like, okay, you'll read it later. So anyway, we had a good time.
I mean, those last few episodes, and we got to talk real quick about the courtroom scene, which I know took several days to shoot, but I mean, that's a tour de force. I mean, how difficult was that, Bob?
It was hard. It was hard, and the crazy thing was that after, what was it, 2 days, Peter?
Yeah.
I said, can we redo it all, please? And we only had 2 days, right? Or do we have 3? We had 3 and we added a 4th.
We had 2. We had 2 days. There was a half day that I had a trapdoor half day, and so we used the trapdoor half day, and we reshot. We reshot your speech,
and we had shot the shit out of it, and it was long days. But you know what's weird? It's over the course of doing this particular show, I've become very suspicious of tears, of emotion. There are times when the character needs to show a lot of emotion and kind of crack open. And I had felt that I had been too emotional in all of the early takes. And we had gotten through the whole thing, and of course it took a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy, internal energy to do that and to be emotional like that. And it can be very effective on screen and wonderful in some scenes, but after we finish all this, I go, man, I think think I need to redo all of it. It's not right. It's not right that there's something that felt wrong about it. It felt like a misuse of that kind of splitting open, and so you did find the time, and we redid it, and in the course of that, we found all kinds of other moments. And this is the 20th takes right now, because this is day 3, and we already covered it from every angle, and now we're going back and recovering, but not from every angle, but enough. And I'm doing it with a more contained performance, but I'm also seeing all these little turns and moments of who I'm talking to and who I'm, he's doing that whole scene for Kim. The whole thing, he's talking this way, is for the person behind him. Everything he's saying, he's just picturing that person listening, and he's talking to them, and he's doing this thing that either they're supposed to directly hear or watch his what he's doing and appreciate it. And he's affected by it.
And he goes on such a roll that he starts confessing things that aren't even crimes, but just like other bad things he's done through the years.
Right. And so we did it with a sort of more restrained version, I would say. But it also had other little moments in it.
Yeah, that was a really exciting.
I'm not a big fan of that idea of, when you hear about movies where they shot 40 takes, and I'm like, please, come on, learn your lines or something. I don't know. But I mean, in this case, doing as much as we did really helped us find more to it, and I think a more honest and better version of just a more honest performance of the character. It's not Saul's moment to say my feelings are hurt.
That's exactly.
It's not.
It's a tightrope, because
he might be having an incredible amount of emotional uncertainty and fear and even sorrow, but it's just not his place for him to go, please feel sorry for me, or I feel sorry for me. He's really working to try to achieve something.
There are bereaved people in the room who died because of his actions, and so he can't. It's a tightrope, because he can't be, oh, poor me. But at the same time, he's
clearly
you're peeling him back. What I love about the sequence, and what it impresses me, is that you kind of walk in there like cock of the walk, and then just very confident and Saulish. And then as the scene goes on, you go back. It's almost like you're unpeeling the character moment by moment.
Jimmy comes back toward the end.
Yeah, I mean he really. It's an incredible lot of stuff going on there.
And did you guys shoot that before the final scene between Jimmy and Kim?
Yes.
Because I imagine just the amount of work and because Ray, you were right there in the courtroom the entire time too. So after 3 days of that and sort of experiencing that must have also really informed that final scene between the two of you.
Well, yeah, and Peter and I had some really great conversations during the courtroom scene about the look she gives him when he finally is owning his stuff. And I said, by then I had seen the final script, and I said, I had read the whole thing, and I said, what is the journey that we have when she gets to the prison scene? Because if in this moment the look she gives him when he turns around is, in whatever iteration it will be, I will always love you and we will always have a connection. If that's now, what are we playing at the end of the episode? And so we talked through that and tried to, modulate what it is that she's saying in the courtroom, which is, it is a tether that is being rebuilt for sure, but it can't be the end.
So now we leave it there where it's been a couple of years. Does Saul somehow get out for, or Jimmy get out for good behavior?
He makes puzzles for Kim.
Where do you think these characters are now?
I asked Peter for permission when we did the press tour after it aired. I was like, because he said I want to make a finale, if I may. You said I believe there is a love story at the core of this, but I would like a finale where the characters live on and you have questions afterwards. And I said, well, I think you aced that. But I said, but if anybody asks me just personally, because I'm a hopeless romantic, I was like, I think she does start to practice little by little, and I think she tries to decrease his sentence, and they maintain a relationship. There's no happily ever after, but there is a save your soul and a lifelong connection that happens. And there was one thing in the finale, when he does finger guns at me, we shot that I did finger guns back, and it got cut out.
Yeah.
And at first I was like sad because of the hopeless romantic part of it. And Peter said, we watched it and it looked like Kim was back in the game rather than Kim is saying, I'm there for you forever. And I said, oh yeah, I don't want that. And I agreed. And weirdly, he's a showrunner and I'm not, but it was the right decision. And
Or hair tearing.
Yeah.
I think what happens is
He's so negative. Don't
Bob
say
Odenkirk takes all his money and invests it in cookies, a chain of cookies and ice cream and little hot dogs. And it all goes bust. He loses all his money. He comes banging on Peter Gould's door. There's gotta be another series.
I think Saul/Jimmy becomes a college professor at a small town.
Grows a beard.
Yeah, grows a very thick beard.
But in my version, I knock on your door. I've lost all my money. Everyone in Hollywood knows it. And I knock on your door and I go, please. And you're like, I don't get this fucking guy. I should shake him off. So it's for the network, and it's for one of the, advertising networks, whatever, like main networks, ABC, whatever. And it's with the show you originally pitched me. You and Vince, Peter. It's the procedural.
Right.
Saul gets out of jail for some reason, I don't know why. And he has a different client every week, and he gets him out of jail. Yeah. He never goes to court. Yep. So we go back to the original idea that you originally pitched me at the Chateau Marmont, procedural show, Saul Goodman, different client every week, and they never go to jail. And he gets them off because he manipulates everyone.
I love it. I'll watch that.
It's like a Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote. Okay.
It's called Lawyer, She Wrote? What?
Well,
whatever. It's a great idea, and just let me lose all my money and we'll do it.
Okay.
We have many different options here for spin-offs, but for now, check out Lucky Hank happening right now as we speak at AFC.
I dare you to list all of his shows.
So Carla has 20
And
shows.
movies.
So.
Challenge you to list all
Can
these
you
shows.
list?
Let's go!
Movies and shows.
Seriously, I want to
I
hear it.
don't think so.
Come on, try.
There's some surprises in store. I know I'm doing.
Are you in a show? Are we in a show right now?
Yeah, Godfather of Harlem, of course, Saul, Mandalorian, The Boys. I got a few happening right now, and a few new ones coming up soon. Parish.
Right now, you guys don't
Parish,
realize
AMC,
this.
Parish.
You don't realize this, but Giancarlo, right now, as we speak, is in London shooting.
Gentlemen. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
You guys are so challenging. It's not about me.
We'll go back.
Fine. Just tell us what our call time is.
Go back and rewatch the final season of Better Call Saul. Or go back and watch the entire series. 6 seasons.
Yes, indeed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did everyone think about that, huh? So amazing. We are headed out to the lobby for the reception and after party. I will check back in a bit. Look at this, they got all these photos of Gene working at the Cinnabon. And they're actually handing out Cinnabons. Look at that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Boom. My own Gene Cinnabon. I've been waiting in line here to get a photo op to make it look like we're sitting at Saul's desk, so that's coming up next. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on the final Better Call Saul season, the final Better Call Saul Emmy event. What a night, man. I can't even saw all the photos I got. They gave us, here's my Cinnabon from Gene. You know, the photos that I got sitting at Saul's desk. I mean, what more could you want from the final event? Don't forget to like and share and subscribe and do all the fun things for me here on the YouTubes. Follow me on the social medias. And thanks for watching, everyone. I am out of here.